Okay, good evening. Today is Tuesday, July 21st. This is the regular meeting of the Rhinebeck Central School District Board of Education. Can I have approval of the minutes, a motion to approve the minutes of the July 7th, 2020 organizational regular meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All those, any corrections or changes besides the ones that were sent? All those in favor? Motion passes. We have an opportunity for public comment. Okay, seeing no public comment, we're going to move on to reports and discussions, and we're going to start with a superintendent's report.
Okay. So a lot has happened since the last meeting. The biggest agenda item obviously has been looking at the guidance related to reopening. In addition to that, there's been a lot of transition steps that have been taken. I hosted 5 open voluntary sessions with faculty, so I was able to meet. I had a session for each building and then 2 open sessions for all employees, so I was able to meet with so many people in the system just as an informal get to know you. Excellent turnout, and just a lot of positivity. A lot of questions we kind of clarified, and I just described the approach for how we're thinking about the reentry plan, and we solicited volunteers to sit on all those subcommittees, and both the RTA and Annie submitted names for each of those. So it was a really good initial engagement. In addition to that, I had visited Ramapo twice. They had hosted some parent town halls, so they invited both myself and Janet Warden from Red Hook. They invited us both there just to hear about what the parents who use their services are saying about school and all of that. So I met some families there. But last night I hosted I think maybe first ever virtual town hall, and had 200, about 189 people log into that, where I had a slide deck that I went through, pretty much what we know about the guidance, all the categories, talk about our approach and what the principles are that we're using as we make our decisions. There was a very extensive question and answer period, and I wrote down anything that I couldn't address in the moment. That is just sustainability in action.
Yeah.
This is a public.
There you go.
That was a public demonstration of sustainability. But it was a really ample questions, very broad. But again, there was a nice sense of kind of cooperation, and I think there was appreciation for that connection. I know I appreciated hearing directly about some of those anxieties, and I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to the survey section there. So in addition to the internal and external relations part, there have been 3 county-wide superintendents meetings, so I've been able to meet with all of the district superintendents, and we actually had 100% attendance at a session at Duchess Bosie's. To be on the same page with the approach, we do know that's important because many families live in one district, work in another, and there's always that normal comparison among systems, and not to make the decisions because of that, but we do understand the value of learning best practices, so we've all been sharing that. Each place will have unique approaches. We already know that, but we're looking for very common systems, particularly as it relates to health screening of both students and staff, and health responses, meaning how do you handle situations, in the region, in your district, in the building. So there's been some good discussion at the county level with that. Mark Molinaro hosted a session for all the superintendents, invited the Commissioner of Health. So we are very well connected and well resourced in terms of people giving us support and having a network. So this is not something that we're in alone. We have a lot of guidance and a lot of connection with that. And that is really it. I will save more discussion a little deeper when we talk about the survey analysis. That survey happened prior to my arrival, so I'll just be giving you my analysis of it, having received the data. That's all.
Anybody have any questions or anything? Any questions or anything? Okay. So we'll move on to board committee reports. I think we just have personnel.
That's me. So we met on Monday, July 13th, and the committee briefly discussed the coaching positions for the upcoming sports seasons. We acknowledge that we're going to be entering into negotiations with the Annie, RTA, and the administrator groups this year. We also discussed the unaligned employee salaries. These are substitute positions. And we briefly discussed cafeteria worker salaries, their positions and responsibilities. And the group reviewed contracts of 2 individuals from the district office. And that's it. And our next meeting is to be determined.
Any questions for personnel? Okay, so now we're going to move on to the online learning survey overview.
Okay. So I had let the board know that I wanted to present about this survey data because I think it ought to be and should be routine for us if we survey to have an obligation to report that survey data back out. So I apologize in advance. I was not aware of how the document or information was shared internally prior to today, so I apologize for that. I think in the future we should always know that if we're seeking input that we have to share that with the people who participated in it for their own learning and for them to see value in their contribution. So that is from where I'm coming from in this, is to honor that process primarily, and then to give you a little bit of synthesis of kind of how I understand that feedback. And this will not be the only feedback. Part of that town hall was to receive more feedback from families, and we will do more with the faculty as well. But the one thing that is a common thread is the importance of, particularly for employees, for staff, is early decision making and clarity around those decisions, so that there's ample time to prepare. And that is very important. Even though things are uncertain, there are certain core decisions that we have to come to resolution with our associations, so that there can be ample time to plan, so that then that can be communicated back to families. Because you can see that same frustration on the family surveys. You can draw a trend line through that very well. The one thing that's very interesting is the students will tell you time and time again, the thing they miss most is the social component. They miss their friends, they miss the connection with the teacher, they want it to be together. And much of the ways that we approach this, we were so concerned with teaching content, which obviously schools have to do, but I think we all learned the important function that schools play in bringing a community together, bringing kids together, being able to listen, and all of that interactive piece. Kids really did crave that as well. Loud and clear in the family survey, we have a significant amount of concern about the health and safety of this. There are many parents who will tell you on this survey, even way back when this was given, which was now probably 7-8 weeks ago, some pretty significant concerns about, even if we take every measure possible, their lack of comfort for any sort of community commingling, even with cohorts. So that's going to be something that not only Rhinebeck confronts, but all schools are confronting. But it did come through in the survey, and I wanted to recognize that. That was a very common theme from the families. There was a lot of concern with the variance of experiences. If you had multiple children in multiple grade levels, managing multiple platforms, that came through on the survey a lot. There was a little bit of anxiety even on the teacher's part of some more clarity needed there. There was recognition that there was a lot of choice, and the teachers really handled it extremely well, given the fact that we just closed instantly and had to learn how to do school without any direction at all. And the kids will say time and time again, teachers were very responsive. Some was a lot of email communication, but there was a lot of variance, and it was very difficult for families of younger children in particular who were managing different platforms in one house without feeling that they were letting their kids down from not being able to get them ready. Lots of guilt came through, which I think is important to acknowledge, and we need to relieve parents of that guilt of feeling that it's their job and that they're somehow failing kids if they're not available to help them with the schoolwork. So we have to take all of that in as we develop our plan to increase the capacity to be able to flip into an online module. So as we're planning that, with the assumption that at some point we'll probably be all online at some point during this 2021 year, we have to be ready for that. So my recommendation is, based on what I've looked at in this survey, is we kind of have to teach the how of learning, because we got into the courses and into the teaching, but we forgot the school part of it, which is taking attendance, meaning that's a big deal, like knowing that you're expected to show up. And we did not have any of those structures in place because everyone was just saying, we want you to be okay. So it was from a place of social, emotional, it was from the right place. But as time went on and once the decision was finally made, we'd already lost that kind of routine, and that you have to get up every day, you have to log in, I need to see your face, you need to see my face. So some of those structural components that school brings have to be part of our plan so that should we go from in-person to online, it is seamless and they're well prepared. So in addition to that, looking at the equity issue of technology, we need to have a device for the child. We can't just assume a device in the household means it's a device for the child. So that is a little bit of a wrinkle that we have to get through. We're going to be really well suited for 612 because we had a very generous grant from our staff to enable us to get to a one-to-one. We're working out how to redistribute carts for K-5. But that's going to be a factor that you can see even in the survey data where people were fighting over time on the device. But I would like us to be ready to go both ways should that happen. So part of in-person learning should be learning how to learn online, which is a totally different focus. And we have to take our time. I want to be able to tell the teachers sooner than later than that we don't have to be thinking about this Regents exam, this AP exam, these assessments, so that we can focus on quality learning and really like give teachers that breath that they can exhale and say what's important for kids to learn and rethink the kind of core essentials of a course. But that's all beyond my control. I'll call the College Board every day if I have to. But that's what I'm seeking to do to honor the feedback that was initially here. And the last caveat to that is seeking feedback in process. That was clearly evident that people felt it was too late to have that voice, both staff and family. So I think putting in internal mechanisms for review, like how is this going, needs to be part of our plan. It can't just be, here we go, it's going to be this, even if it's not working. We have to build in a reassessment and be ready to kind of make adjustments along the way. And we have to kind of come out from the beginning and say that is our approach. And that's really, it's as you would expect, very variable, but it was a good participation rate, which tells you people had things they wanted us to know. And so I just wanted to honor that. And in the future, we'll do it more timely. And I can answer any questions.
Mark?
So this may go more with your report earlier, but just wondering, because I did listen to the meeting last night, what your thoughts are about people's expectations going forward, whether they are expecting maybe they have expectations of more choices than they may be able to have as far as how their child's learning goes going forward, online versus in person versus a combination of those things. I'm just wondering what your take is on
So currently, we need that defined for us. There is some misconception out there about what the governor says in early August is going to dictate a lot. Like, what does which schools are open mean versus some mix in between? If he gives a message about that flexibility, we're going to have to be very ready to pivot and to be able to provide for certain uncertainties of choice, which currently is not something that we can really plan for without having a number and knowing that is going to be something expected. That is, we're all checking with what is the legal obligation that we're going to have in that situation. The phrasing of his order in early August is going to dictate that. So we're expected to plan to prepare for an all in person and all online and some mixture in the middle. But as you know, we're dealing with fixed staffing. So as things change in that hybrid model, we are going to have to kind of reallocate and reassess. We will do all the thinking that we can, but there's no doubt August for us, like July 31st, we're going to have plans, we're going to have ideas. August is going to be like a lot of nuts and bolts trying to make it work in that way. And the bottom line is, if our teachers are teaching in person, they're teaching in person. They're not going to be, we cannot expect them to teach both. It's just not, it's not possible. It's not the agreement that we have. So we're working, and I think, we're committed to collaborating with the RTA to see what makes sense for that. But I just want to caution all of us that August is going to be unpredictable, depending on what we're going to be compelled to provide. Because being open is one thing, being virtual is another thing. Everything in the middle is very challenging for us. Forever.
Any questions?
So I think it all makes a lot of sense, and I think you've done a great job so far of getting us ready. My one comment would be kind of a transition grade of 5th into 6th. I mean, they don't know Canvas. They don't know a lot of the things that go on in that building. I would think that they would need a little bit more support. Maybe if we could start earlier with them, and then again, 9th grade as well, to a lesser extent.
Yeah. Not to prolong this, but A phased-in approach. A phased-in approach is one of our primary guiding principles, meaning we are recognizing those key areas, primarily sixth grade. Also, our younger students, we're prioritizing that. As we look at like the high school level, we understand that even ninth grade is a transition to some degree, but we also are going to be going with a new one-to-one device, so that's going to take some education. So we're going to be doing that slowly in a phased approach. I don't know exactly how we'll end up on that, but sixth grade, kindergarten, you can even look at the way that CLS is arranged so that we can bring people in and really teach how to be distant within the structure. That's part of it. But I think those transition areas, that was another, there's a lot of anxiety among families and students about that transition because of how the year ended. Because all of that end of those transition years are about getting ready, and that is there's a lot of anxiety. You can see it in those grade levels there. So thank you for that. That's a good reminder for me.
One of the things that struck me about the survey was that faculty, 75% of our faculty reported that they either had a more than typical or a high anxiety or stress level around the online learning. And I'm just wondering, the plans that you're describing sound wonderful. I'm just wondering how we're phasing training for faculty as we move through the summer.
That is why I added the line about early decision making. I think some of that anxiety came from a lack of knowing what, like wanting to do what they were expected, like having later decisions than they were comfortable with, and being kind of tossed into a platform without a lot of professional development. So this summer's professional development projects were all really based in developing the capacity there. And that's a big driver for us, and that's why I want to make decisions early so that people can say, okay, I know what I'm going to be, and I have a little bit of time to do that. I think along with the phasing in of students, I think we have to front load time for teachers to do work in their building without students so they can be in the classroom and feel ready for all of that and kind of understand the platforms. I think some of that anxiety, from what I could read from their words on the survey was really that. It was just kind of, they weren't really aware of the clarity. They were just very responsive. People went into basically like EMTs for learning.
Yeah.
And then overnight, it was like, and everyone just they operated from their heart and just did what they thought was right. But I think there was a little bit of insecurity in that, which created some additional anxiety. I mean, I can tell you even as a principal, it was a terrible, you would just be up at night worrying about what the right response was, because you're told to manage screen time, but to keep the learning meaningful and not step on any other teacher's toes. Yeah. And then without a lack of that, what the schedule provides you with a structure, you're always overlapping. You're getting emails from kids saying, oh, I have 4 things due this day, and you're like, oh, I'm sorry. And so you're getting a lot of messages about like worry about their wellness and make sure they are experiencing trauma, but then keep them learning. And I think that conflict creates a lot of anxiety.
Thank you.
Other questions? Can you talk a little bit about communication? As you said, there's going to be a lot of decisions, and parents also have to start making plans. Do you see maybe as you have information putting it on the website? I know you talked about potentially doing more town halls, but how do you see getting information out as you know it?
Yeah, I think that once decisions are made, we need to make those very public and very clear and straightforward. I don't think we should wait until it's embedded in that. I think the core question is about that choice factor. So we need some of those broader kind of concepts dictated, knowing that it's conditional to what the governor announces in August. But my opinion is as soon as we've come to some sort of resolution on that, it should just be public. Once I have time to meet with all of the internal stakeholders, like I would like to release those guiding principles as like, this is what we're working toward. I don't know exactly what it will look like, but I think we have to be public and share that in a public way so people feel like, okay, this is decided. And I don't want to wait until the whole thing is done, because truthfully, on the 31st, it's a plan and the state is expecting it to change. And so we are creating a link. So we're uploading a plan to our website. We're only sharing the link because the state knows it's going to change. So you're going to see many districts, it's going to be very conceptual at that point on the 31st. Then as they start to work through, because we're all going to be working through agreements with our teachers and with our staff. That's going to take us a long time to settle. And so that link is going to be dynamic and it's going to change, but I think we should kind of be very clear with the community of like, this is what's decided. You are going to be asked to make a choice about what method, or even with transportation. You know, all those unanswered questions that we don't currently have. Once that goes out, we're going to be like able to say, here's, and I think we have to do that early.
I agree. And do you anticipate either surveying or asking families to gather some data about whether it's transportation or, you know, if their kids will be driven in, or any type of information you need to help
I
make
do
your plan?
think, like, I'm a very big proponent of the survey. I think we have to be very careful with the language of it because it's such a topic out there right now. I don't want the question of the level of comfort, just assessing the level of comfort with, if given the choice, because we may not be in the position to give a choice. So I want to be very careful with the language. I definitely care about that. That is sort of why I'm going to try to continue to be engaging the community and try to assess it in more of an anecdotal, informal way. And then once we have decisions, then do a more formal kind of check by building. And I think we have to do it differently in that case. We have to be actively seeking responses from each family versus just letting us know who will let us know. Because it's a very certain person who completes the survey, depending on their opinion. And I think in something like that, we're going to have to like sit down and make sure we've reached, just from an access perspective. Not everybody goes online and looks at surveys or even feels comfortable with putting answers into something that gets sent out. So I think we're going to have to do that in a much more methodical way, and then reassess kind of like what is our situation. Because if we're going to be expected to teach in person, and this is every single superintendent is struggling with this, if we're expected to teach in person and support viable, meaningful online, we are going to have to reassess what our in-person enrollment is. But if we're expected to just have it ebb and flow willy-nilly, like week to week, we're all going to be paralyzed with the ability to do it. That's just me. I'm not trying to be doomsday about it. It's just
Yeah, I think that's an important point. Sorry, Matt, hold on. I think that's an important point that parents may not realize. Like, if their situation changes, and it's very hard to change staffing if 10 more kids come into a grade or 10 kids leave a grade or want to go home. I mean, it's really difficult for schools to adjust to that on a daily, weekly basis. It's, you know, we can't make those changes. So
I do think, just to be clear, this is really important to know, all related mandated services are in effect no matter what. So that the IEP isn't negated if you're not in person. That's important for people to know, because that got a little fuzzy statewide. Same with E&L services. We have to do that, and many systems are prioritizing those services and finding a way to do those as safely as possible to keep it in
Matt.
I was just going to add that I really think communication is going to be critical over the next month and a half. I thought the town hall last night was terrific, and I think people just like hearing what's going on. And even if we don't have all the answers, I think some sort of regular updates are hugely important. I think just your talk last night put a lot of people at ease, just to hear a voice. I thought it was great, and just if we can continue to do things like that, I think it'll be pretty meaningful to the community. Because I think anxiety is just going to ramp up as the summer kind of moves along here.
I totally agree, and I think doing it on a consistent basis will even provide more of a sense of security because it's something you can like hold on to. And I felt that it went well. I felt, for never having done it, you know, I think it was really a positive experience.
Any other comments or questions? Okay. We're going to move on to good news. Anybody have any good news? I'll just say I thought last night went great, and I thought we had that was a really strong turnout. Thought it went great. So I think that's good news. I think our meeting today is going better than last week. Thanks, James Erlanger, for helping us out with that, and Whitney for all the work you always put in. But so I think those are good news. The construction, I think the good news, the windows at Chancellor, if anybody can go over there, looks great. The fields are coming together. There's a lot of work getting done, starting to look good.
Everything is going along very well with the capital project so far. We haven't had really any hiccups. We're still going to have a day or two or a day here where we're going to have to shut power down for a little bit, but that's to get the solar array up online and all that stuff. So things are moving along very well. Our biggest thing is going to be finishing the window completely still devoid of any type of thing. So it makes me worry that I don't see anything, but I also know we still got 6 more weeks. So, but the big thing is going to be the paving projects and the logistics of
Yeah.
parking here versus there and getting people around the building was just a logistical nightmare, but it's getting easier now as things are getting done and complete.
Yes.
And the guidance classroom should be up online by August 1st. So
Great.
that seems to be running in line and should be back in there.
Yeah. I think that's all good news. You have anybody else have any good news? No? All right. Any old business? Steve?
Just our goals workshop is Thursday, so if you haven't seen the document
Yeah.
of what's on there already, please take a peek and add anything that you think is missing that you'd like to discuss.
And where are we meeting for that Thursday? Do we know yet what?
I think a cooler place. That you'll find.
Sounds fine to me. All right. Yeah, to be decided. You'll get an email about that.
Currently looking for a large air-conditioned space with outside airflow.
CLS community.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You can walk.
All right. We have another opportunity for public comment. Hi, Sue.
Hi, so Susan St. Clair, 6th grade teacher and RTA president. So I just wanted to commend Mr. Cousins. It's been a really good start working with you. The meetings you've held with all the buildings, and including all the staff, I've heard very positive things about it. People are very excited about it. And certainly the RTA executive committee, we met today and talked about it. I know that you're open to doing more of those meetings, so we really do encourage you to do that. And like you, Diane, I heard from some members who attended your meeting last night and thought it went very, very well. So kudos to you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay. Other. Do you have any other? The only thing I have, so the NYSBA conference, I think everybody maybe knows it's going to be virtual this year, so I don't know if that, Steve and I both said that we're not going to attend if it's virtual. It's still everybody's choice whether or not you want to attend, but it is not going to be in person this year. But we still have to register by this week, right? Whitney, do you know? Have they extend it? Okay. I mean, it's less of a urgency because we don't have to get hotels or
It's a
anything.
multi-week online event. It sounds like torture. It sounds like
It does.
online school from March to June.
Yeah.
It is. But if you still want to go, let Whitney know. I don't have any other. Do you have any other? Okay. So we're going to move to action items. Can I have a motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve the following consent items?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay, that motion passes. Okay. Motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve the 4-year probationary appointment of Rachel Darling to the position of special education teacher assigned to the Chancellor Livingston Elementary School effective September 4th, 2020 in the tenure area of special education general at a salary of step 1 MA plus 4, $62,965 in accordance with the RTA salary schedule for the 2020-2021 year.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Rachel's here with us tonight. Welcome. We're happy to have you here. Congratulations. All those in favor? That motion passes. Motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve the appointment of athletic coaches for the 2020-2021 school year. See attached list.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? I guess the only thing, it's not really about coaches, but I don't know if everybody's aware that the season, right, has been postponed until start of September 21st.
So on the memo in the board packet, there's language in there. The seasons are very much in they've been delayed officially to start until September 21st. So this is just identifying who will, if there's an in-person interscholastic event. There's also a proposal from NISFA about a compressed season, somewhat problematic for a smaller school because it is overlapping dates. Those dates are not finalized. There's still a lot of discussion about this, so that language was included.
And there was a question last night about whether practices could start earlier, but that's not true. September
not.
21st is the first time anything could happen
No
officially.
school-sanctioned practices are able to begin until that official start date.
So I think,
Clubs are allowed, not schools.
Yes.
Right.
You will see town
Yeah.
teams, travel teams, those types of things.
They're
but
allowed.
They're under different.
Traveling between
guidance.
states already.
so,
It's not directly related to the motion, but on this point about the delayed start time for fall sports, I didn't understand in the documentation the difference between fall sports starting in September, there being September, and then there was also fall sports starting in March.
Right. They're basically
What does that
saying
mean?
that they're saying we're not making nothing starting until earliest September 21st, but we also have put thought, it's kind of like what schools are doing, because they're planning for multiple scenarios.
Okay.
So they will not be
Backup
two,
plan.
there will not be two fall seasons.
Okay.
So they're just saying that if not then here's the kind of another plan. Everyone's on like plan C, D, E with the plan.
Okay. Thank you.
okay. All those in favor? That motion passes. Motion upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to approve additional non-unit salaries for managerial confidential employees for the 2020-21 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? That motion passes. And proposed motion to move into executive session for the purpose of
Potential
contract,
litigation.
potential litigation.
Our favorite.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay. Thank you, everybody, for coming.